BBN, here we are for another episode of Believe in Kentucky, courtesy of Believe.com, Believe Podcast Network. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Check us out wherever you get your podcast. We got from the Cat's Paws, AG, Aaron Gershon. My name is Vinny Hardy. We got our resident QB1, Jalen Whitlow in here. Fellas, how y'all doing? And Jalen, man, you got us a guest in here too, so we got to let you tell the people who you brought in to enlighten us tonight, man.
Yeah, man. So, a guy that I always liked, always respected. I remember he came in and, I immediately was like, man, this guy throws a sweet ball. And I remember my dad coming to spring games like, man, he does throw a sweet ball. I was like, I like this dude, man. He's a good dude, good energy. Again, a fellow quarterback. I'm biased over here, so had to get my guy Reese Phillips on, man.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. I was wondering what that intro was going to sound like, so I appreciate that. That was good. Oh, man, always a big Jay Witt fan, man. Always.
I appreciate you, man. Appreciate you.
I knew I was going to let him do the intro.
That was good, man. That was good.
We was all along for the ride.
Yeah.
Well, fellas, man, and we can't wait to get y'all's insights. And AG, man, you cranking out content on the Cat's Paws like a madman this week. So
yeah, it's a long week. Basketball Media Day Tuesday, and man, on Monday I almost forgot to show up at Stoops because we had the bye week last week and it's running together and all that. But no, it's been good. It's a fun week, and I'm really excited to get to Knoxville. This should be a lot of fun.
So you guys, we got two guys on here who have been through bye weeks and start back getting into the groove after the bye week. So what's that like for the guys? Y'all have been in that position. What has this week ramping back up for Tennessee been like?
It's I think it's unique because, usually not a lot that you coming off a bye week and you got to play the number 3 team in the country or, number 2 team in the country or whatever they are. Coming off a bye week and you have a rival, coming off a bye week and you got a lot of guys back from injury and you're playing an away game at your rival and college game is going to be there, 7:00 game. So I think it's, I'm sure they had a little more urgency during the bye week than most people have because, you're getting ready to play somebody who, it could be really, really good if you beat them or it could, anytime you lose to a rival, it's not good. So, a little more urgency in that, if I had to guess. From what I hear, they allow, Levis to sit and Chris Rodriguez to sit during the bye week, which is smart. Yep. There's no reason to, bona fide guys, there's no reason to risk them during the bye week. Let them heal. I think that was good. But, yeah, bye weeks were always it's always tricky as a coach because, there is a such thing as too much rest and there is a such thing as going too hard on the bye week. So it's a happy medium you got to find. It's a balance in there that you got to find. And we'll see. You get some teams that come out, on fire after a bye week. But most teams come out and it takes them a couple of drives to really get the rhythm back. So we'll see how that goes. They got a veteran quarterback, veteran running back. Leadership is very veteran on the team. So, I think it'll benefit them, especially with the injuries that they had. And Flax is back too. That always have to have when you're starting tackles. So that's kind of my perspective of it. It could go either way. It was always good for my right shoulder, though, to be honest with you, to just give it, a couple days of rest. So that's just kind of my perspective on it.
No, well, Jalen, too, with the legs, he was running back there like a madman. But I think a good point, though, is the leadership, right? This team's got really good leadership. I'm optimistic. Obviously, last year, I felt like the bye week last year was kind of what did in a lot of ways. We had a lot of really good momentum going into that bye week, hit the bye week, and like Jalen's saying, right, it could go either way. I'm trying to be optimistic about this one off the bye week. I'm feeling like with Levis, a year in the program, he remembers what happened last year, obviously against Tennessee, and just that last half of the season after the bye week. So it definitely could go either way. But I'm optimistic that leadership, like Jalen said, you got to have a on that.
Stoops even said that in the pressers, AG. I know, kind of a few days ago, that kind of thing. His call-in show, not this past Monday, but the one after the Mississippi State win. So he's trying to, walk that tightrope.
Yeah, and I think this year they're so banged up going into this bye week. I know last year, they were coming off the Georgia game, which was a tough loss, but they felt like they're, a couple of plays left on the board, a couple of stops they could have had. Maybe the game's a little different, but man, they're just so beat up. They were so beat up going into the bye week. Obviously, Will already had the turf toe issue. Then you have the shoulder. Tavion Robinson didn't play against Mississippi State. Jeremy Flax, went out after I think it was the second play from scrimmage after missing, the South Carolina game. So they really did need this week. And I do think it's better, that they were coming in off a win, get some confidence back after, that South Carolina game, how ugly that was. So, I've seen the vibes pretty low at some of these pressers this week, like the week after the South Carolina game. I mean, there was very low energy in that building, which made it, even more a little not surprising, but encouraging that they were able to rally and play well against Mississippi State. But the energy is really high this week. From what I could tell, there's a quiet confidence. They know what's ahead, and I've been very encouraged from what I've heard this week.
And the fast start, I think, is got to be key. We saw them kind of struggle coming out at Florida.
Every game, every single game this year.
Yes, you build deficits and you claw back. You end up kind of making it their type of game, but you got a hole to dig out of. This coming Saturday isn't the game where you want to get down or get punched in the mouth. You got to kind of weather the storm in this one and get through that first quarter or whatever, and let Tennessee kind of settle down and not be so jacked. And just like, you hear the NBA playoffs all the time, just weather the storm. And that's really what they got to do, I think.
No, it's crazy. They have not scored first. They've scored first only once this season. That was Youngstown State, and obviously Youngstown never scored. Every other game they've played from behind. So all four of their SEC games, they fell behind by double digits. To Ole Miss, to South Carolina, never recovered, by 9 at Florida. So they can't afford to play from behind in this one because Tennessee will lap you. And I think the other thing this week that's going to be so important is you got to get to the quarterback. They've only had 10 sacks this year. That's second lowest in the SEC. But, man, those plays that Tennessee loves to have are those deep balls, and those take time to develop. Obviously, they're quick to the line of scrimmage, but any deep ball is going to take time to develop. And if, Hooker's got time in the pocket, he's going to make you pay. So you got to get in there and disrupt him, and you also got to do what you've been good at this year and limit those scrambles. So I think the fast start and defensively, man, putting pressure on Hooker, those are the two keys for me.
Yeah, and I think, obviously, you're playing at Tennessee again. You can't simulate 110,000. I mean, it's impossible. I mean, I don't care how close you put the speakers behind a quarterback in practice. I mean, you just can't simulate it. I mean, so with that being said, it's always the defense always get the communication benefit when they're playing an away game because the crowd is quiet, so Tennessee's offense can operate. So the offense obviously is going to get the noise. They're going to get the band. They're going to get the noise. How do you operate in that? How are you prepared to operate in that? Obviously, they've been preparing to go silent count and all of that good stuff. But at the end of the day, this game comes down to keeping the ball out of Hendon Hooker's hand. If the offense can sustain drives and, kind of keep that offense on the sideline, and you heard Rich Scangarello say it the other day, I mean, that's the key to the game, essentially. I mean, and he even said you could easily get ran out of the building. Those are words that he said if you don't do that. And obviously, Tennessee has that fast break type offense where, I mean, you're playing Golden State at the end of the day. You're playing the Golden State Warriors. You can blink an eye and they could be up, 20 points. right? So you got to try to play some ball control and kind of be smart about what you're doing. But to do that, at the end of the day, it comes down to execution. You got to move the chains on offense. Again, Tennessee's defense is like 7-on-7 against most teams. At the end of the day, they're 129th in the country. So I'm looking forward to, again, this is with quarterbacks over here, man. I'm looking forward to, Levis throwing the ball early and often. Contrary to what most people may think when it comes to a ball control game, I'm looking forward to them being able to take advantage of what's in the pass game. And that'll in turn open up the run, in my opinion. So I think that it'll be good to exploit. Again, they got guys injured in the back. They got two. I think they got a safety or two out at Tennessee. So this is perfect to look. You got Berryon Brown, Tavion back. Let's use those guys and let's get your horses running. Downfield, man. Early play action is what I would like to see. But again,
hey, look, I came to the right spot because that's exactly what I was going to say. It's Stoops' MO to control tempo, run the ball, all these, and then we're great at it, right? We are, but I think obviously the play calling is where it's going to live. I want to see us throw the ball, right? We almost have to come in trying to do what Tennessee's going to do because you can control it all you want. They're going to score. They're going to score fast. You have to accept that and be willing to almost lose, giving it all you got in the air, right? Because I just don't think you're going to win this type of game on the ground trying to control the clock. You might work for a little bit, but they're going to take off, man. So it's like you're going to have to match them. That was one of the things at Ole Miss specifically. I'm sure I'm not the only one. That was just I felt like, hey, we were trying to force some things. We got a lot of young receivers. Man, let them go play, right? I would have rather have seen us lose that game based on us trying to stretch the field a little bit more. And Tennessee, we go out and we try to stretch the field and match that kind of tempo and that effort. We lose. I would rather accept that than, playing ticky-tack, handing it off the whole entire game and just trying to kind of stay in it. I want to see us try to win it. That's kind of I'm sort of with Jalen on that one.
Go ahead, AG.
You're on mute.
Mute it, man.
My bad. My question to that for you guys would be, obviously, yeah, you definitely want to take shots against the secondary. It's 130th in the country. It's given up like 370 yards a game. Anthony Richardson doesn't have more than 200 passing yards in SEC play at 453 on these guys. So, they struggle against the pass, but isn't this a game, obviously you want to establish the run and passing it helps, but it just feels like time of possession. If you could have another game, and it's going to be hard to do, like you did against Mississippi State, where you had the ball for almost 40 minutes, you just want to keep Booker off the field as much as possible. And, it's a tough thing. You want to have those explosive plays and get the passing offense going, but you also want to possess the ball and have those, those tiring 10-play drives on a defense.
It's going to take perfect play calling. I mean, just is what it is, right? Because you're right. I mean, you want to control the tempo. That's what you want to do. I guess I'm just sort of looking at it from, hey, I live in Tennessee. I've watched every single one of their games. All my family are Tennessee fans. So kind of where I grew up around. So I've watched a lot of their games, and it's just really being realistic that I don't know if you're going to be able to do that like you did to Mississippi State at Neyland Stadium. That's also, if you're at home, it's a little bit different. But I'm with you, man. It just has to be a good mix. You definitely want to get C-Rod involved on the ground, control the tempo. If that's successful, I don't know if it will be right away, but if it is, yeah, you stick with it. So it's a good point for sure. I mean, there's got to be a happy balance.
Because last year Kentucky, dominated time possession. 45-42 game. The pick six was the killer.
That was the difference.
Yep.
They were scoring in 50 seconds, and Kentucky was going methodically down the field, kind of like the blueprint what you're talking about, Aaron, and it still just wasn't quite.
Yeah.
Well, the problem was last year that they had two drives where they just gave up. The first drive of the game was the first play.
Play from scrimmage. Yep.
Yeah. And Brad White said it today.
Yeah.
Their whole game plan is to isolate you. They put. You would have thought it was Allen Iverson running routes against Michael Jordan back in '96, whatever year that was. I mean, the safety for Alabama, man, they isolated them, and the splits isolate you. And again, you know, I live in a high school world when it comes to coaching football, and it's the same applies for college. You remove the defensive coordinator out of the game when you tempo, and you're able to move the ball. You now have to rely on whoever's your signal caller on defense, whether it's your mic, whether it's your safety, whoever is doing most of the communication. They now become the defensive coordinator. And we always had the thought process of, yes, let's make a 16, 17-year-old high school kid call the defense because we're moving so fast. That's what you want to do. And the same goes for a 21, 22-year-old linebacker or safety playing for Tennessee. If you can throw some of that in there, you know, and kind of almost play their own game against them at times, I think it could benefit them. I'm with Reese on this. It's going to take very good offensive architecture, you know, play calling to be able to consistently create points, you know, because that's what you're going to need. Again, Kentucky's defense can play very well, and I think they will. I always said that Hendon Hooker's due for a bad game. You know, every quarterback is, right? Every quarterback is due for a bad game. So, you know, is it going to come Saturday, and how does, you know, Brad White and the defense, how do they kind of create opportunities, you know, for Kentucky's offense to get back on the field, which, you know, at the end of the day, creating them, you know, turnovers or 3 and outs and making a punt. How do you do that? I think you gotta affect the quarterback. I mean, everybody knows that's ABC 1, 2, 3, man. You gotta hit them. You gotta affect them. And, you know, and kind of, again, it's almost one of those things where, you know, you just say, okay, let's just go balls to the wall. Let's pressure the hell out of them. On offense, let's let them hang, man. Let's play ball and see what happens. You know, because at the end of the day, you know, the result is going to be the result. If you lose, you're going to wish you would have done something more aggressive. All coaches do. We wish we would have kicked the onside kick here, or surprise onside kick, or went forward on 4th down here. Everybody has that regret. You know, at the end of the day, I think the Tennessee's mentality on offense is, and Josh Heupel's mentality as a coach, everything that's borderline, they go for it. If you watch them, like they go for it. Anything that's borderline, whether it's 4th and short, 3rd and short, or, you know, not 3rd and short, but 4th and short, or, you know, should we kick a field goal here? Everything that's right on the line, that's, you know, that's kind of teetering, they always go with the more aggressive choice every single time. And I think they're going to do that on defense as well. You're going to see a lot of cover 1. You're going to see cover 0 in a lot of situations too. So it's, at the end of the day, it's a battle of philosophies. So, you know, are we going to stick to that philosophy or not? And, you know, at the end of the day, I heard somebody say this other day, if it's a good call, if it's a good play, then it was probably a good call. If the play don't work, it was a bad call. You know, that's how people see it. So, you know, you got to live with it regardless. So why not live with it being aggressive?
So is it kind of like, you know, those full court press teams don't like to be pressed? That's kind of what y'all are saying. Maybe they don't like to get tempoed, even though they tempo everybody. Is that kind of what y'all are getting at?
Well, and I think with tempo, right, Kentucky's not a tempo team, but you're talking about a battle of philosophies, a battle of offensive architecture, you know, that kind of stuff. That's, you know, that's our OC's job, right? He's not only does he have to prepare down and distance plays, he's got a script. This is what I do on 3rd down, 1st down, 2nd down, 2nd and short, all these different things. But you also got to think, okay, we get a 1st down, this place is going to start rocking. We need to start moving to the next play. You got to have those types of thoughts and situations in your head, especially at Tennessee at night. You know, they're wearing the cute little black jerseys and stuff. So it's like, you know, it's going to be rocking. So you've got to not only prepare for just regular down and distance, but you got to prepare some plays tempoed, you know, like Jalen's saying, for that atmosphere. You know, we're not a tempo team, but I think you kind of have to fight fire with fire a little bit with Tennessee. What do you have to lose? You know, it almost feels like it's kind of their year. What do you have to lose? I'd rather see us go down swinging, if you will.
Didn't they tempo a couple of plays against Mississippi State too?
They mixed a little bit.
A couple. Yeah. I was like, whoa. So
and hopefully that's a little something they were
and I think
preparing for that.
Yeah. And I think that was kind of Rich's way of saying, you know, we can do multiple things. and kind of putting that on tape. Because at the end of the day, you put stuff on tape. And again, going back to the coach's mindset, you may put something on tape against a certain team and it's good against that team, but it also may be good against a team down the road. And you make other teams take time out of their day and their practice schedule to prepare for it. So that's why philosophies exist, right? They say, okay, Tennessee really, pretty basic on offense. But what makes it tough is they have really good players doing it, and they're doing it really fast. All right, Kentucky, good players doing it, but they're extremely complicated to the game plan against because they're showing you a million different motions, looks, formations. So at the end of the day, it's all going to come down to it comes down to who can execute. But, philosophy will play a huge part. But I think it'd be cool. I kind of wish this was a 3:30 CBS game. And I wish Florida Georgia was another weekend.
Yeah,
you kind of get those students another few hours to intoxicate.
And
I was hoping for a nooner, if we're being honest.
Yeah, it's hard to put.
That would have been in our favor for sure.
Yeah.
I would have taken the nooner.
That's true. And the Hooker's ability to run too, spread it all out.
Yeah.
And we've seen Drew Lock in this offense, but he doesn't look to run, but he can. And then there's nobody in the box because everybody's spread out horizontally. Just adds another dimension too to make it like Stoops likes to say. They put a lot of stress on you, and that's just another little layer of stress that they put on defense.
Yeah, it's funny. Brad White made a joke today. He's like, I wish I could have more than 11 guys out there. If there were any time you could have a new rule, that would be the time. But yeah, it's tough. That's why, you got to get to the quarterback and you got to affect him and keep him in that pocket. But you can't let him sit in that pocket too long because, one, his receivers are so good, they'll eventually, make something happen out there, especially, man, if Cedric Tillman comes back, which I'm hearing is most likely going to be the case. I mean, that was their number one going into the year. Jalen Hyatt, who's, I think he has 12 touchdowns that leads the country. He's averaging 109 yards a game. He was their number 3 and some places they're 4, depending where you look at their depth chart, going into the year. It's just insane the talent they have at receiver. So, if you let Hooker hang around in that pocket, he's either going to find one of those studs out there, or like you said, Vinny, he's gonna take off and scramble. He's run for 318 yards this year and 3 touchdowns, and he's made a lot of big time plays on his legs. And that's something that Brad White talked about at length today. That's something Jordan Wright talked about. So they're aware of it. They know the challenge that it's going to be, but it's just one of those things. It's easy to talk about. It is been proven nearly impossible to stop.
Will this be Stoops' biggest win? And if not, what is?
I would say
Louisville.
Right. I would say right now, I think Louisville 2016 was kind of the momentum changing win that he needed. I would still say that first win at Florida, getting that monkey off the back, that would be it for me. But if he gets this done today, given the what the history of Kentucky, Tennessee is, the only win he had in Neyland was, let's face it, it was a 20% capacity, awful Tennessee team that, with a coach that was cheating the whole time. So it was a disaster that year for them. So this would be it.
We ain't giving that back though.
And I'll ask you guys, I mean, is Jalen, we've talked about this on this show. It's one of those games where, I don't think Tennessee is going to discount Kentucky, but they got Georgia next week. And you gotta think that's on their minds, in the back of their heads, that trip to Georgia, knowing what's at stake, in Athens, kind of just assuming you're going to win this game. That's got to be in the back of their minds at least a little bit.
Yeah, if I had to guess, but it's one of those things. Again, I know people on here are going to think I'm really biased on this one. I do believe, and I just got off the phone with one of my best coaching friends, one of my best friends, period. But I do believe that the way they practice, because again, I guess, I kind of know how they do things a little bit when it comes to practice schedule. The way they practice, the way they play, their philosophy, their style of play, it allows them to be able to kind of focus on what's in front of them. Because when you're practicing that fast, you literally have zero time to think about anything else. I mean, it's like boom. I mean, it's really crazy to watch a team like that practice is crazy. So, I mean, I hope that they're thinking about Georgia, and I hope that they are, because that'll help us, and also it'll help my guy Reese Phillips, man. He lives in Tennessee. He won't have to.
I was just about to say, man, I'm deep in Tennessee territory right now.
He won't have to hear that Rocky Top,
So you asked me what Stoops' biggest win is so far. You're right. Tennessee was depleted. As someone who grew up a Tennessee fan, a massive Tennessee fan, this was never a game that was ever looked at. Now, they do respect, Kentucky more. They have to, right? I saw some good quotes today from Tennessee players through their media, a lot of respectful quotes towards Kentucky. And I think that's a tribute to their coach, too. He's a professional guy. He's not someone who's going to throw jabs.
Yeah, they finally got that right.
Exactly right. When it's not needed, he's not that kind of guy, and you got to respect that. But to me, as a lifelong Tennessee guy, that was the biggest win. To me, it was sweet to see. And tomorrow, obviously, would be just as big of a deal. But to your point, I've said to everyone around me the last couple of weeks, I think we learn a lot about Tennessee this weekend, regardless of what happens, because you have Georgia next weekend. And I can tell you already, they're already looking forward to Georgia. And I can tell you firsthand right now, not only their fans, but mainly their fans, they are looking forward to Georgia. You walk around, I can see it, right? Like where I live right now. It's very, very obvious. So I've said, I think we learned a lot about Tennessee as well, depending on what happens. Obviously, they come out flat. That kind of tells us a little bit. What worries me a little bit is, the LSU game was sort of a trap game for them. They put 40 on LSU, a different LSU team, though. I think LSU puts up a little bit better fight if they played right now. I still think it's a blowout, but I think it's a little bit better.
Maybe if that game was at night, that's different.
Very true. Very true. Very true. But, that I was impressed because you had Bama next weekend.
Yeah.
They did not play down to the level of their competition. So I think there's definitely looking forward to Georgia, and we'll see. We'll see.
Hey, didn't y'all get a chance? I think, was it 2015? Kentucky went to LSU and played a 7:00 game?
Yep.
Yeah. So, that was one of those places I wish I would have, got a chance to go play. I know it's crazy down there, but.
Yeah, that was my last year and at LSU. I think I was Zadarius Smith's senior year, I believe, if I remember correctly. But a crazy environment, crazy. I forgot the Tennessee LSU game was not at night. That definitely plays a role for sure.
I'm down here in Tennessee with you, Reese. So you're not alone, man.
Well, hey, look, pray for me because my family, we're having a big. A big kind of Halloween football watch party. It'll be all Tennessee fans. I'm gonna be the only guy there behind enemy lines, so pray for me.
I work on Blue all the time, and
yep,
I was on a ESPN Chattanooga show earlier in your hometown, man. So
love it.
Yes, sir, man. I'm with
Absolutely.
Reese, you mentioned Tennessee's players and coaches saying the right things about Kentucky. Obviously Tennessee has owned Kentucky. There's no getting around it. What is their attitude towards Kentucky? Do they respect them at all, or is it just like you said, they're looking forward to Georgia? They're not worried about losing this game.
From a fan perspective, no, they don't respect Kentucky.
I didn't think so.
It's not even. It still is a lot of the same. I mean, growing up, it was always kind of like, look, Kentucky, Vanderbilt are automatics.
Yeah,
right.
Right. And that obviously has changed. It's kind of like this is Stoops' era, Kentucky. And you talk to Stoops, you talk to anyone who's played with him. No one cares about all that other stuff that happened because we weren't there. We weren't around. Then it's a completely different regime. So. But to your question, absolutely not. No, there's zero respect. It's a little brother mentality. Your best team still can't beat us type of thing. Right. It's straight disrespect, no doubt.
Yeah, I went to it was 98. I went to the Tennessee-Alabama game in 98. I got cousins there in Loudon, right outside of Knoxville. And I wore Kentucky stuff. And it was, for once, you had a few old guys say, hey, we're kind of worried about y'all, because that was the Tim Couch squad, and it wasn't just dismissive. So just to even have them say, we're worried about you, was a little bit of a respect from them, because it's always been that condescending. They look down their nose at Kentucky, like we do in basketball to everybody else. that's how Tennessee football does. Kentucky and Vanderbilt, especially because those wins are in ink on the schedule always. And they're appalled when they even get a game from Kentucky and Vanderbilt.
Well, it's funny. I've gotten in recent arguments about our, the last, however many years of us finishing in front of Tennessee, no matter if we won or beat or lost to them. Obviously, I get a lot more. There's a lot more Tennessee fans now, we'll say, that talk about Kentucky. So it's a much more active topic now. It used to not be a topic. It now is a topic of, well, we still beat you with your best teams. And if you come back with, but we finish in the East better than you have the last, I don't know how many years it's been now. So it's sort of like, okay, well, is your barometer now beating Kentucky? Because back in my day, we never looked at Kentucky. So it is changing a bit. They don't want to admit it, but they definitely talk about us more. There's no doubt about that.
What's funny about that is I think their athletic director, Danny White, made a comment. I don't know if it was this week or before the season, whatever, that they would always wear orange and white when they played their rivals. And notice how they're wearing black this weekend and not wearing orange and white. They obviously wore the orange against Florida. They wore it against Alabama. So that kind of tells you what you need to know, I think.
Which is funny because you talk about dominant series. I mean, what is Alabama and Florida the last 15, 20 years with Tennessee?
Oh, my God.
It's ironic.
Both of those,
because they look at it as like, hey, well, you're picking us as a rival because we are the bigger brother. Which you could say the same thing. It's very lopsided there too.
Yeah, and that's what I tell them. I said, Tennessee to me is like Alabama to y'all, and they're like, why you hate us so much? I said, take that Alabama streak and double it, and now you'll see how I feel about y'all.
Last story that I will never forget. Okay, my first time playing in Knoxville, they brought, and I don't know if they always do this. I don't know. I think this is more just the disrespect to Kentucky, but they brought their band while we were having morning, we get up, have breakfast, have your morning meetings, and Stoops is running everything. They bring their band through the hotel and play Rocky Top the whole time.
I've heard them done that before.
In the lobby playing it while we're sitting in there trying to meet and stuff. It was just a crazy experience, and I can never forget that. So
that's mad disrespectful.
that is disrespectful, man.
Crazy.
Yeah. I've been seeing a lot more Tennessee plates and stuff around here where I am. So. We'll see what happens, man. They gotta either way it go, man. I'm just looking forward to watching a great game.
Yeah.
I think it's something to be said about an underdog. Again, Stoops, and y'all heard me say this on here before a couple of times. Stoops, I don't know what he does, but he always find a way to make the other team's quarterback play very bad against him. Who knows? It may be one of those games that knock Hendon Hooker out of the Heisman thing a little bit or knock him down some. They can create some turnovers or, kind of stress him out a little bit. So we'll see. I think at the end of the day, you're going to get two good teams playing really good football. So that's what we're looking for. Hopefully we can make that thing blue.
And honestly, it was surprised the nation, especially with them beating Alabama. But I don't think it wouldn't surprise us if they went down there and pulled the upset. The pieces are in place. They haven't all played and clicked in special teams, offensive line, things here and there, sputtering. But the pieces are in place for them, should have beat Ole Miss. We already know. Should have beat South Carolina without Levis. We already know that. But the pieces are in place for them to go down there. The nation will be like, oh, my God, Tennessee just beat Alabama. Now they lose to Kentucky. But we wouldn't be flabbergasted like, oh, my goodness, they just beat Tennessee. Because, they've been building and the progress they made, we wouldn't be just shocked if it happened.
Kentucky's a team that, obviously should have, could have, would have, but should have beat Ole Miss.
100%.
Easily a team that could easily, and when I said this earlier in the season, actually before the season started, this is a team that could be undefeated going into the Georgia game. I said earlier in the year. And they are a quarterback injury and, letting the guy get set away from –
or 7 other plays that would have won that game.
Yeah, that's how fickle it is, and that's why these coaches are wired the way they're wired, man, because you can't take a day of play off. But I will say that y'all heard it here first. watch special teams on Saturday.
Yeah.
Watch special teams. I'm telling you, watch special teams. Special teams is going to be, because at the end of the day, you got a team who you want to keep their offense off the field. So watch special teams on Saturday. I really do believe something crazy going to happen.
That is one area where they haven't, Tennessee's offense, we know what they are. Their run defense is elite. Their special teams is nothing. They really haven't done. They have one really good kick return on the whole year. That was against LSU, went for 58 yards. They're one of the few teams in the SEC that hasn't blocked a kick this year. Their punters barely punted, so maybe you can get in and block one of those. But their field goal kicker, hit that little knuckleball that went through against Alabama. But he's missed from 48, 46, and 51. So he's not perfect by any means. So need Matt Ruffalo to put his kicks through. But Barry on Brown, man, this is a game. If you're ever going to get another touchdown from him, this is it right here.
And the kicker missed the extra point against Alabama. He missed he missed one against UT Martin as well.
Yes, he did.
So he has a habit of his kicks are really low to start. So
that Alabama kick was the luckiest kick I've ever seen.
I think it was tipped personally, but
maybe.
But I'm telling you, I just got a feeling that it's going to be like one of those weird games where it's not going to be as high scoring as people think, and it's going to be something spooky on Halloween weekend. Special teams.
Well, there is a stat that Cole Kublik put out today that I found pretty interesting, where Kentucky has not given up more than 24 points in their last 11 games. So the last team to do that was Tennessee, 45 last year. And then on the contrary, in Tennessee's last 11 games, they've scored at least 30. So something's got to give one way or another.
Yep. Absolutely. And you talked about how fickle it was. As far as Kentucky could be 7-0.
No.
As much as Tennessee jumped on Alabama, up 21-10, Alabama gives them another possession by trying to field a punt. And, that was another possession Tennessee shouldn't have had. Alabama still came all the way back and was driving to kick a field goal to win it, and should have got homeboy closer to give him a better kick, and Alabama still wins. The Pitt game was very close. Tennessee's a hair away from 5-2 and are looking a whole lot different perception-wise by the whole country, but that's how thick it is. Y'all talking.
There's a common denominator though, and I don't know if I hit that stat earlier in the show, but the two lowest scoring games for Tennessee were Pitt, which is their lowest, 34. Crazy, that's their low, and then 38 against Florida. Both of those games, the deep opposing defense had 3 sacks. I mean, when teams are getting pressure, they're not limiting them because they're in the 30s, but that's where their lowest totals have been. So I think if you can mix that pressure with, maybe winning the time of possession battle where, we talked about earlier, the importance of mixing tempo and also, controlling the clock and having those 10-play drives. That's a recipe that could work. If you need those type of things to go your way, if you're gonna be in this one.
Well, man, Reese, we know Jalen does his thing. He got his coaching and training. You got QB Country, man. Tell us about what you're doing. QB Chattanooga, man.
Yeah, so I joined a company. It's our 12th location. I joined, it was last May when I opened it up. I lived in Nashville for the last few years after I graduated from the University of Montana and finished up there. And I was in Nashville, came back home, took some time away from ball after injuries and stuff like that with football, and got connected with QB Country. They were founded really around the time we were probably at Kentucky, maybe a little bit earlier than that. So they've been around 10 plus years, a little bit, 12 locations. It was founded by David Morris, who is kind of famously now Eli Manning's backup at Ole Miss during that time. And, a brand I knew about really as I was getting recruiting, the private quarterback training thing was really like when we were at Kentucky, because I remember that was Whitfield, right, out in California.
Yeah.
He was kind of starting that movement, and you didn't really see it a lot until then. But awesome company. Like I said, 12th location, mainly in the Southeast. We got one up in New Jersey, but just an awesome brand. I mean, obviously the numbers speak for themselves. I can list off a bunch of different guys, but it's private quarterback training, and it's awesome, man. It's been going for about a year and a half here in Chattanooga. Work a lot with, and hopefully we'll expand into Knoxville for myself, but working with a lot of, obviously Chattanooga, a lot of North Georgia, which has great quarterback talent, and just football in general in that area. And it's been awesome, man. It's been good to kind of get back into the game.
Good stuff, man. Had to go back. Well, first of all, tell us about Montana too. You
I
go
was just about that.
and go
man.
the big sky country and out there, man.
Man, it was. I tell you, it was. Of course, my last year I had 2 bad injuries. Obviously in college, my one at Kentucky was an Achilles rupture. I didn't want to leave Kentucky. I loved Kentucky. I was, that was the Dawson era, and at that point I had been through so many different OCs, and I just, with the injury, it was like, man, I think I need a fresh start, right? And so I left, went to Montana. Was the coolest thing in the world, man. It was a great experience. I remember, Shannon Dawson is really the one who got me hooked up at Montana, and honestly was a big proponent to me, not transferring, but helping me in that part, getting hooked up with different coaches and stuff. Awesome guy, helped me out a lot. He called me and was like, hey man, like I was talking to some different local schools, but I didn't want to come back to Chattanooga yet. I wanted to do something extremely different. And Shannon was like, man, what do you think? I know Bob Stitt really well at Montana at the time, was the coach. Like, what do you think about Montana? Like, he was like, this place, you can take a year to kind of rehab that injury some more. They got a good senior quarterback. So you can kind of sit, learn some more, and you're the guy senior year. It's all you need is 1 year out there. And I was like, man, I didn't even know where Montana was on a map, to be completely real with you. I hung up. I was like, Shannon, let me call you back. I looked it up. Now I called him right back and was like, man, let's do it. Screw it. Like, I'll go check it out. Went out there for one visit and loved it. I got spoiled, by the SEC and the attention and the feel of football. And at that level, in my opinion, that is one of the best places you can play to get that same type of feel and passion, and it was a great experience, man. I loved it.
I always wanted to ask you, kind of how was that? Because I know it's a lot of wildlife, obviously, up there. I'm sure y'all ain't gonna tell them what y'all see up there.
Well, so Jalen knows I've never really been an outdoorsy guy. That was never really my MO. So I was like, I wanted to do something that was even bigger than football. I wanted to be away from my family and kind of be solo dolo and get new friends and just kind of like, hey, this is a fresh start, and take advantage of it. And man, Jalen, if you would have seen, we were out with cliff jumping, we're camping, because there's literally nothing else to do out there but football and outdoors and drinking beer, if we're being honest. So like that's what it was. And it was a cool culture. And the guys they're such down to earth people out there, obviously very much smaller than Kentucky, but the passion was just the same. And so lots of, floating on the river, lots of different stuff we did not do at Kentucky, but it was an awesome little change of pace for sure.
That's good, man. That's good.
Dug through the bio, man, and it said that if not for football, that you wanted to be an actor, man. So what type of role would you
an actor? Wow, that's got to be like my early Kentucky days. I'm like an actor. That's funny, man. I just I don't know. I always wanted to do a lot of different things. I was always in entertainment. I was a media major at Kentucky. And so I was always into broadcasting, stuff like that. Then when I went to Montana, I was a part of their journalism school, which is a little bit different. But yeah, man, I don't know. I always was into that side of kind of the game, and that part too. I always thought that was really cool, and always respected and appreciated the media and kind of what they did. And I don't know. That's probably where that came from. I said that's got to be like freshman year at Kentucky, because I graduated high school early and came, so I'm like that might have been right, when I was 18, fresh from high school.
Randy Sanders recruited you, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I never forget one day we were in the meeting room. And, we used to practice my freshman year, the year before you got there, we used to practice in the morning. So we had meetings at 6:45, something crazy, on days we practiced. Days we met before practice in the morning. And I remember he was in there watching film of quarterbacks that he was recruiting at the time. And he was like, man, I really like this kid. He showed us your film. He was like, what y'all think? And obviously, we was like, well, obviously he can throw the ball. And at that time, I mean, shit, man, you trying to replace us. I'm not really about to say anything.
Right. Yeah. I'll be like, what kind of question is that?
They're trying to bring somebody in to replace me. I'm not about to go too hard on the compliment.
He's all right. He's whatever. He's cool.
He's all right. But yeah, I just thought it was cool, man, because again, and people know I like Randy Sanders, man. I really do. Good dude. Was always very, very honest with us. Very honest. I'm sure Patrick Toles, Max, myself, I'm sure we all got our own stories of Coach Sanders being extremely honest with us. But he was also really that he cared though. Like he's a good dude. And it was always fun. But yeah, I just remember that day vividly of him. He was actually talking about you too. He was like, "Man, I like this kid." He was like, "I think he'll be a really good player." And
that's
Signal Mountain, right? Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, and that was the Tennessee tie. That was a big reason why I came to Kentucky was Randy, and I grew up with him on the sidelines at Tennessee and kind of seeing. So that was a big piece of that for me was Randy. It worked out though. I love Randy. I was really happy. I'm sure you too, Jalen. His success at ETSU.
Oh, yeah.
That was awesome, man. Obviously, I didn't get to play for him, but I loved Coach Sanders. He was an awesome guy. But honestly, for me, I mean, it was being able to go to Montana in that offense. That was because Randy didn't stay and Neil was there. Then Shannon. I kind of got to ride that wave of the same offense. So I'm kind of thankful for that in a way. Yeah,
and I actually, the kid that's at Tennessee right now, the quarterback that I coached, Gaston Moore. Yeah. In high school, he was getting recruited by ETSU, and Randy Sanders was recruiting him. So I got a chance to go to ETSU with him and see Randy and kind of see the campus. They got a neat little setup over there. It's kind of out of the way a little bit, ETSU, but he actually won a couple conference championships too. So it was all good, man. Yeah.
It's fun, Jill. It's funny you brought up this question I wanted to ask both of you guys. Now with college football, with the transfer portal, you have in Kentucky's current situation, Levis is gone after this year. You have Kaya Shuren, you have Destin Wade, Hogan's a walk-on, probably not going to get to start. What do you think they're thinking right now? Like, obviously, they'll have. You would think the two Wade and Shuren will at least have a chance to compete, but. Man, from everything I've heard and everything that I think every fan knows, they're going to add a transfer this year, and it's probably going to be a name that is going to be good enough to start right away. Like, what is your mindset, man, when you kind of know they have to recruit a guy who's going to, and it's not going to be a replacement, but it's going to be a guy that you're going to have to eventually compete with and probably have to sit behind, just after you lose Levis.
Yeah, I think they'll definitely reach in the transfer portal. Because I do think, especially the quarterback position, is now free agency. It's the NFL. So with him running such an NFL offense, pro style, a lot of volume in his offense, they're gonna reach in and try to get an experienced guy from somewhere, somebody with somebody who's willing to leave a middle of the road ACC, a middle of the road SEC school or Pac, whatever. Somebody's going to, leave and come to Kentucky to, be the quarterback at Kentucky next year. Now, whether he win the job or whatnot, you hope. I mean, when you reach far in the transfer portal for a veteran guy, you hope that he does take over and win a job. But from what I've been hearing in camp, man, or inside of that camp, as far as Kentucky football is concerned, is that the Wade kid is really impressing people.
Yes, yes, he is.
I've been hearing that. So, obviously, Kaya Shuren has talent, and we'll never know how good he could be right now because he only really – the kid only had a couple snaps before he was thrust into a starting spot.
Yeah, 2 snaps.
Yeah, so that's weak. It's almost unfair to really judge him on that. But but everybody on the roster is talented enough to run that offense, in my opinion, from what I've seen. Now, this is just from my perspective. But with Wade, you have you'll have a philosophy change a little bit because at the end of the day, he's a young kid looking to run an NFL style offense. So you'll have to kind of, slowly kind of ease him into that. Kind of similar to what I had to go through with Randy Sanders my freshman year. In high school we had a couple drop back pass concepts, pretty much read one guy. And I had a great high school coach, but the offense was really, really kind of static, and it was really simple. But you get to Kentucky, and I remember getting the playbook, and I'll never forget my dad saw my playbook one day. I was home on break, and he just first word was "damn." He was like, that's what he said. He was like, that's a lot. And I remember flipping through the playbook when I got it, and just seeing like 3 different versions of slot fade in the red zone. And I'm like, yeah, we got a slot fade where we turn here. It was just so much different stuff.
Yeah.
And you can't, it's hard to prepare for that as a kid. So, and I say that to say they got a couple young guys on the roster who are able to be in the offense for a year, but at the end of the day, you can't replace game. You can't replace the game. You can't. It's no way as a coach we try whatever we can do to put our kids in game situations. You just can't do it until you're actually in front of thousands of people with the band, with pressure, under the lights. You can't simulate that. So, again, I think they'll go in the portal, and I think they'll grab somebody pretty good out of the portal. And Rich is doing job. He's doing a good job of recruiting at the podium. Whenever he's at the podium, he's always saying he was talking about Tennessee offense. He was like, it's hard for NFL guys to kind of evaluate spread guys because they're only doing so much. He said that Will Levis, these were his words. He said that Will Levis will go into the next level ready to play right now.
Yes. Yeah, he did. Because he did say that.
Yep, he understands fronts, protections, route concepts, what defenses are trying to do to him. Again, he's calling 2 and 3 plays in a huddle as a college kid. So it's easy for an NFL pro or NFL organization to say, okay, this guy has been running the 49ers offense for a year already. And he ran the Rams offense for 1 year. So that's why I believe if he stays healthy and he finished the year pretty good, I do believe that he'll be the first quarterback drafted. Because he's what, and I just saw a kind of a quote, kind of like liken him to Josh Allen.
He actually will compare himself to Josh Allen. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, it's all happening in a good way for him right now as far as the momentum he's getting. Because you can't replace playing for 2 NFL coordinators. No. And those 2 guys are going to vouch for him. When they call Rich, when they call Liam Cohen, and like, look, 6'3", 230, he's competitive, he's a great leader, he can throw the ball through a brick wall. That's all they need to hear. Yep. Family background, they like to hear all of that stuff too. And from what I hear, he checked every box that they want to hear, every last one of them. So now I personally believe that there's not a quarterback on the planet better than Bryce Young right now in college. But Will Levis checked the NFL boxes. Mm-hmm. So I do believe he'll go first. So that's what Scangarello is going for in the transfer portal. Where's the 6'3", 6'4" guy that can handle this volume that has college experience? That's what they're going for, in my opinion.
Well, I think you hit it too, because it's like, hey, how do you? I think that originally it was like, hey, how do you manage as a young guy in the portal era, knowing that pretty much every single year, especially at a place like in Kentucky, with what they're running, that is so enticing for people who want to play in the league. Every single year, that's a threat, and it's going to be that way. Back in our day, it was like, okay, we got he's a freshman. At least we got a couple years. He's going to have to get used to it. Now you have to be. But you hit it on the head. How do you manage that? He's managing it by exactly doing what he's right now. You tell those young guys, one, beat him. Beat this guy. You can beat him. If you don't beat him, though, you're only going to need 1 or 2 years with me, right? Because now you have proof that that's all you really need. So that's how you manage those guys. And it's not going to be perfect. You're still going to have guys that are going to want to leave. But that's how you pitch it. Hey, this is a proven – you want to play in the league, this is where you're going to do it. If you want to go play in these offenses – I played in one in Montana where you're talking about tempo – it doesn't really matter what the defense is doing. And I loved it, but if I was asked to go to the NFL, I'm going to really struggle because, again, we never really at Montana running that type of offense, which is very similar to Tennessee. When I watch them, it's like that's what we were doing. They take deeper shots than we were doing. We were definitely much more West Coast, kind of, tit for tat, throwing it around, and then we take some deep shots. They are kind of backwards. But that same philosophy of, hey, I just need to know a shell. Is it too high, one high? Okay, well, too high takes me here, one high takes me here. It's quick, right? We're not trying to decipher too much. That all doesn't always translate to the NFL. So that's you answered the question. That's how you try anyway to manage those young guys. As like, hey, look, you're still really young. It's proven you're only going to need a year or two, and you're going to be so much more marketable to the NFL if you do that.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys have seen Twitter, but there's a name floating around there, and I can't confirm. There's a Rich Scangarillo connection and interest in DJ Ugalele from Clemson. Just gonna put that out there.
Yeah,
I feel you.
Just watch your film. I'm just saying. I know you got all the film, Jalen. Just get there. I'm just saying. Once he hits the portal, because he's gonna, Cade Klubnik took over last week. Just get ready for all the hype, and yes, it's real. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think he
he's complicated, man.
He really is.
I feel the same way.
I see so much potential in him, but him just naturally just standing there spinning the ball, it's just, it's going to be hard to get whoever comes after Levis is going to be, a uphill battle for him.
Oh yeah.
I mean, because the way Stoops talk about him, and the way I know just catching the ball from him again, I've seen videos, and I call myself a quarterback coach, so I can see when I know when I see something pop off on film, and it's just hard to replace that. Now, again, you try, but we'll see. I just don't know if DJU is just a natural, spinner of the football like that.
No, and I think obviously they're going to look beyond this, but it is with Rich Scangarillo coming from the NFL and spending some of his off seasons working with these college kids or at the time high school kids. There's a lot of guys he's connected to. I mean, you look at the portal right now, there are only 3 names. The kid from Boise State, he coached. So 1 out of 3, there's already a connection. So guys like Ugalele, who he's coached with, those connections are going to come, and they're going to come fast. And sure. I think really it's going to be a guy he knows already. And, like you said, Jalen, someone who's going to fit that mold of 6'3", 6'4", DJ 6'4", something like that. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's like a free agent market, right? It really is. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see what route they go when it's time. But
watch out for one of those guys at Georgia and one of those guys at Miami. Watch out for them.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
You skeptical about DJ also, Reese?
Yeah, you're getting into my world of course, I do live in the X's and O's world, not as much as Jalen. I'm a private quarterback coach, so I am much more in tune with the mechanics, that kind of stuff. I always considered myself a very just kind of natural thrower. I think that's what it takes, man. It's like if that's something you struggle to throw a spiral, and I hate to be so elementary and kind of breaking down his game.
No, you're right.
You struggle to throw a spiral. You can't give your guys catchable balls. That's like 101 stuff, and that screams at me that clearly is an issue. But I'm with you. He's close. He can do some good things, but that wouldn't be my first pick personally.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Interesting. Fellas, this has been a ton of fun, man. Reese, we have thoroughly enjoyed it. Definitely gotta have
really
you
appreciate
on. If you want to hop back on here with us sometime throughout the rest of the season, man, appreciate you.
Anytime, absolutely.
And man, this was a ton of fun. Got to talk about a sponsor real quick. La Terrain Watches. Been a sponsor of this podcast from day one. Yeah, it's affordable watches for men, women. They got accessories. They got different bands you can get. Whatever you need, they got it. Go to LaTerrain.com. Dave and Ben will hook you up. Go to the website, la-touraine.com. Hit them with a question in the chat. If you got a question or something you want to know about before you make a purchase, they'll respond to you in the chat. That way you're informed and know what you're buying. LaTerrain.com. Tell them you heard about them by listening to the Believe in Kentucky podcast. Appreciate all the friends at La Terrain. Go to A Sea of Blue as well. They put each and every episode of this podcast up on their site. We appreciate Jason, Markle, and everybody putting Believe in Kentucky on A Sea of Blue for more members of BBN to peep out episodes of this podcast. We definitely appreciate it. I said it on ESPN Radio Chattanooga, man. I went with my heart. I'm saying Kentucky 40, Tennessee 37. That's what I told him. Went on the record, and so I'm gonna stick with it, man. 40-37. Kentucky gonna find a way.
Wow.
And get through that first quarter, get punched in the mouth, withstand whatever storm Tennessee tries to come with. 40-37, Ruffalo hits a field goal to break.
Oh, that's bold. That might be more. That might be. No offense to Matt, he's a great kid, but that might be more bold than the score prediction.
he was humming right along, and now he's hit that turbulence, man. That just the plane. I don't know.
It's Stoops always compares it to a golfer. Like, it's just so hit or miss. It's funny how not an analogy to me, but yeah, man, that's bold. That's bold.
That's it. Well, AG, man, be careful heading down to Neyland and getting up in that press box.
Appreciate it.
Be safe in chat, Reese, and Chattanooga, JG.
Hold my ground.
Keep doing what you're doing, man, fellas. We definitely enjoyed it, and good to meet you, Reese, and have you on here dropping knowledge. And we'll be back on another episode for Aaron Gershon, Jalen Whitlow, Reese Phillips. My name is Vinny Hardy. This has been Believe in Kentucky, and we'll see everybody next week.